I would now like to invite Professor Harsh K. Gupta for the plenary talk. He will be presenting a talk on 3 great tsunamis, Lisbon 1755, Sumatra-Andaman 2004, and Japan 2011. Before Sir starts the talk, I would like to introduce Sir, if you would allow. Thank you. I would like to keep this introduction brief because the contributions, the scientific contributions that he has is so numerous that if I would not be able to do justice if I were to actually say all the things that I've read about him. Here I start then. Professor Gupta is an eminent seismologist who has over 200 scientific papers in national and international journals and 5 books to his credit. Out of his many important scientific contributions, probably the most important one is the methodology that he developed, which distinguishes the normal earthquakes from reservoir-induced ones. Sir was the leader of the 3rd Indian scientific expedition to Antarctica, and his team established Dakshin Gangotri, a permanent Indian station at Antarctica during 1983 to 84, reportedly in record time. He is the former secretary of the Department of Ocean Development, DOD. It was during his tenure as the secretary that DOD had implemented programs such as the bathymetry surveys of Indian Exclusive Economic Zone, the establishment of an Indo-Russia Gas Hydrate Center at Chennai, and a 1 MLD low temperature thermal desalination plant at Kavaratti. He is also the former vice chancellor of CUSAT, Cochin University of Science and Technology, and a Raja Raman fellow at the National Geophysical Research Institute, NGRI, Hyderabad. A recipient of the 1983 Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award for Science and Technology, the highest Indian award in the Science and Technology category, and the 2008 Waldo E. Smith Award. He was also awarded the fourth highest Indian civilian award, the Padma Shri, in 2006. A huge round of applause and welcome, Sir, for the invited talk.
Well, a very good morning to all of you, and I'm indeed very grateful for this opportunity to talk, and I'm really very impressed with what INQUISE has been able to do, which we started somewhere in 1998, and there are some records which are very interesting to note. This building was started on 11th of March 2002 and completed on August 2023. Okay. So the then director, Dr. Radhakrishna, who later became Secretary, Department of Space, and subsequently Dr. Shailesh Nayak joined, and this institute grew, and then we have many other people who contributed very significantly. I see Dr. Shinoy here, and Srinivasan is doing excellent, wonderful job. So I'm going to talk about the tsunamis, but a wonderful thing that Srinivas did is to get Ajay Kumar to get me from my home. On my way, I talked to him, and then I realized that it may not be a bad idea to refresh ourselves a little bit about earthquakes and tsunamis before I get into the talk. So, earthquakes occur all over the world, and we must get some sense of the earthquake magnitude. A magnitude 6 earthquake is like a Hiroshima kind of bomb. It emits energy equal to that. The magnitude scale is little deceptive because with every increase of 1 magnitude, the energy release is 31 times more. So when we talk of a magnitude 7 earthquake, we are talking of 31 Hiroshima kind of bombs. When we talk of magnitude 8 earthquake, we are talking of 31 into 31. And when we are talking of magnitude 9, then we are talking of 31 into 31 into 31. That is around 40,000. So what we had in Sumatra on 26th of December 2004 was a MW 9.2 earthquake. So imagine 40,000 of earthquakes, 40,000 of Hiroshima kind of bombs, going into a source time function of that earthquake was 500 seconds, and the rupture was 1500 kilometer. So this gives you an idea of the kind of things that we are talking of. When we come down from 6 to 5, 5 can be locally damaging because it is 1/30th of that, and when we come to 4, they are mostly not effective, so they don't damage the places. Now we must also get to know a little bit of tsunamis before I go into detail. How does a tsunami get generated? What happens that the sea is not very quiet everywhere, and there are plates, tectonic plates, which move one with respect to other. And whenever the movement of a tectonic plate below the ocean creates an earthquake, and that earthquake is either a normal earthquake where the hanging wall comes down, the football, or a thrust earthquake where the hanging wall goes up, the footwall, then, and this movement propagates to the ocean bottom and creates a vertical elevation or depression on the ocean bottom. Then the column of water above it starts oscillating, and that's what a tsunami is. The tsunamis in the open ocean have a very small amplitude, and the word tsunami comes from that only. Tsunami is a Japanese word which means harbor waves, because in the open ocean the waves would be very small. The 26th December earthquake had generated an ocean wave of no more than 20 to 30 centimeters, which is totally lost because the waves in ocean are almost 30, 40, 10, 20 meters waves are not rare. But the difference is that while the amplitude of all these waves dies with depth exponentially at a depth of 2 kilometers, so there's absolutely no movement. In case of a tsunami, you have put the whole water column into oscillation. So what used to happen in Japan, that fishermen will go out for fishing out, and in the open ocean they will not feel any tsunami. But what happens that when tsunami waves reach shallow waters in the harbors, then there is so much of energy. So that energy gets converted into amplitude, and that amplitude gives rise to huge tsunami waves which wash off the villages. So when they reached home, they found that there is no village left. So that's why it came tsunami name. I must also tell you a very interesting story connected with that. It's in old time, in one of the Japan islands, there was a king of the island. He was sitting on the top. His palace was on the top of that small island, and they had a wonderful harvest that year. It was a beautiful morning when people were on the sea coast. And in tsunami, what happens? That you will have either the crust or the trough reaching the coast. So if the crust reaches the coast, there will be amplitude high water levels. But if the trough reaches the coast, there will be withdrawal of the seawater. And he saw from the top that the water has been withdrawn, and he cannot shout or do anything. People are so far off. So he set his palace on fire. And people saw, and he was a very popular king. So they wanted to save him, so they all rushed to save him, and in the process, the people were saved. So these are some of the interesting stories about tsunamis. And I'm really very happy that I'm giving this talk in Inquest today, because in 2004 when the tsunami occurred, people did not know what a tsunami is. And today, as you will see during my talk, and as Shailesh mentioned, and we all know, this is one of the best places in the world for tsunami kind of work. So I'm going to talk of, first of all, of the Lisbon tsunami, 1755. And this tsunami, as you can see here, is there a pointer here? Yeah. So this tsunami, oh, it will not show up in this. Okay. Anyway, doesn't matter. So what we can say that this is the location of the earthquake, and what you see in red is the place where the waves reach in 4 hours, yellow is 8 hours, and green is 12 hours and more. So 1755 was a time when Lisbon was one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it was thronged by the Europeans, particularly by Germans and English, and all kind of superstition and also pace of idolatry, because people did not know what exactly is happening. And when this earthquake occurred, it was a Saturday, 1st of November 1755. That also happens to be All Saints' Day. So the first shock occurred at about 9:30. The buildings quaked, and 10 minutes later the second shock came, and fires began all over. And then what happened, that aftershocks occurred. And at that time, an earthquake was a wrath of the god. And in the churches it was said that you have not stopped sinning. And these aftershocks are as a result of your sin, and that's why this all is happening. So the magnitude of this earthquake has been discussed for a very long time, and the best estimates are about magnitude 9. So we are talking of 40,000 Hiroshima kind of bomb. In Lisbon, at that time, 90,000 human lives were lost. About 10,000 lives went in Morocco. The population of Lisbon in 1755 was only 260,000. So 1/3 people went in that earthquake. Now imagine today the population of Lisbon is 2.8 million. So if 1/3 of them go, it will be 0.9 million. So it's a huge thing. And it is the earthquake which started people to think that what exactly it is. Because that was a time with the prosperity and everything, people thought it is the best of the world. And they were very well-known philosopher Voltaire and Kant. They were struggling to show earthquake as a natural phenomena rather than the act of God. And this news of earthquake reached Voltaire in Geneva after 15 days, and there were all kind of stories, and Kant published papers about it. So the main effort at that time for the philosophers and thinkers was to remove the concept in the mind of the people that earthquakes are the act of God, but it is a natural thing happening. So that was also time that there were religious wars all over, and there was enormous desire that everything should go well. And Isaac Newton was around the same time, and at one stage he has discovered gravity and he was predicting the planetary movement. At the other stage you are saying that everything is the wish of the god and you are sinning. So these were a lot of conflict of ideas, etc. But that also gave birth to the seismology, because Marques de Pombal, who was a prime minister in Portugal, he issued a questionnaire to all the people. And the questions was, at what time did the earthquake begin and how long it lasted? Then a question like, did you receive the shock to be greater from one direction than another, from north or south? So all these questions were asked. Then there was a how many people died, and were any of them distinguished? Did the sea rise first and fall, and how many hands it rose? If the fire broke out, how long it did last, and what damage it did, etc. So there were about 5,000 to 6,000 answers collected, which are still stored at Torre do Tombo, a National Historical Museum, and they have been analyzed again and again. So in many ways, 1755 was the beginning of the modern seismology. This is the ruin of Carmo Convent, which was destroyed during the Lisbon earthquake. It is still preserved, and it's a beautiful site to visit. Then this one is a painting, ruins of Lisbon, because the survivors started living in the tents outside the city. So a German artist carved this, and this is still very much preserved. A very interesting thing happened there. After 1 month of occurrence of this earthquake, the Manuel de Ma, the chief engineer, he said that there are three ways of doing things. Either you rebuild the old city by repairing the damage, building the used recycled metal, widening of the surfaces, raising the entire Baxia, the whole area, and redoing. That was also the time that Portugal had conquered Brazil, and they had brought in shiploads of gold. So money was not a problem. So they took the third option. They erased everything and rebuilt it. And can you believe that at that time, how to make earthquake-proof houses? So they made the models, put them on tables, and they had soldiers marching past them to generate the waves and see that how well they are sort of tolerating them. So Lisbon was rebuilt. This is one of the buildings which was made at that time and which is still a tourist attraction. From that stage, I come to 2004, 26th of December. Tsunamis are known all over the world. Tsunami warning centers have set up globally, but there is no tsunami warning center for the Indian Ocean. On 26th of December, we have the Sumatra-Andaman earthquake and tsunami. It was a 9.2, MW 9.2 earthquake, so you can imagine that how large the earthquake was. This is one of the most destructive tsunami because it claimed over 250 human lives, and there was unprecedented damage. Marina Beach in Chennai. You see, 26th December happened to be a Sunday, and that was the morning time when this earthquake took place. And the people were walking on the Marina Beach. The time is around 9:15 in the morning. And there the trough reached first. So the sea withdrew. When the sea withdrew, you see the shells, the fish all spread over there, and people rushed to pick them up without realizing that a bigger wave is going to come. And that's what exactly happened. Now, this is a very important diagram, and it has been used extensively for various things. What I want you to see, we are showing the circum-Pacific earthquake belt, which is around the Pacific coast, all around, and this belt accounts for almost 75% of earthquake energy released. The remaining 20% energy is released through the Alpine belt, which branches off from the Pacific near Java, Sumatra. It goes to Andaman Nicobar, north of India into West Asia and into Europe. This one accounts for almost 20% of energy release. The remaining 5% of energy is released from the so-called stable continental region earthquakes, like the Koina earthquake and other earthquakes, which occur in the stable parts of the plate and which does not have high seismicity. Now, what is very important to note, that we realized that all the earthquakes which can generate tsunamis within the Indian Ocean are encompassed in two small areas. One is from Java, Sumatra to Andaman Nicobar, shown by an ellipse there, which is a 4,000 kilometer long stretch, and the other area is on the north of the ocean, south of there, a small area of about 500 square kilometer radius. So other than these two, there is no other source which could generate a tsunami in the Indian Ocean. So as usual, there was an IOC meeting from 3rd to 8th of March, and the discussion was there, and we were there, Radhakrishna was with me, and our point was that we do not want a tsunami warning system which is not able to give false alarms in time. Because what happens that a tsunami occurs and a alarm is issued by Pacific or Japan Meteorology Agency, and that affected a evacuation of the coastal areas, especially on the east coast, Chennai, etc., Tamil Nadu. And then that tsunami does not take place, so people have to come back. If it happens 2 or 3 times, there is total loss of confidence in the tsunami warning. So I insisted in that IOC meeting that we should set up a system which removes all the false alarms. And this can be achieved by putting the ocean bottom pressure recorders. Because unlike the Pacific Ocean, where earthquakes all around the periphery of Pacific Ocean are capable of hosting a magnitude 7 tsunami-genic earthquake. As against that, for the Indian Ocean, there are 2 stretches only. The 4,000 kilometer for Andaman Nicobar to Sumatra, 4,000 kilometer, and in the Arabian Sea of Makran coast, a small area. So I said that an earthquake occurs, that is deciphered within 2 or 3 minutes of its occurrence. What is the magnitude is estimated. Whether it has created a tsunami or not is not known for a long time. But this can be known if we plant the ocean bottom pressure recorders in the immediate vicinity of these 2 tsunami-genic zones. So this is what was provided there. But they were not very sure of this argument. So the communique of the 3rd to 8th March said, noting it is important to improve the science of issuing tsunami warning to reduce false alarms given the inordinate inconvenience and disruption to normal life caused by false alarms, especially given the high population densities and intensive operation in coastal areas in the Indian Ocean, and also to continuously improve forecasting. So there was a challenge kind of a thing. I said that about 200 people sitting there from all the countries, that you don't accept what I'm telling, but just take 2 or 3 weeks time and come back, give a source in the Indian Ocean other than these 2 which has generated tsunami. As a consequence, the next meeting was held from 14th to 16th of April in Mauritius, and no other earthquake was known to have generated tsunami. So the Mauritius declaration said that recognize a unique tectonic plate structure of the Indian Ocean, and that there are primarily 2 tsunami-genic sources that could affect the coastline of the Indian Ocean, named the Indonesian seismic zone and its sections about 4,000 kilometers, and the Makran source. And then welcomes the plans and intentions of Australia, etc., etc. So that was a starting point of setting up of our tsunami warning system, and we were fortunate because what happens that on the circum-Pacific coast, the earthquakes are occurring in the immediate vicinity of the populated area. So the time taken for the waves to reach is 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or even less. So they are used to issuing warnings and withdrawing, issuing warnings and withdrawing. We have the advantage that as far as the Indian coast is concerned, the closest is Andaman Nicobar Islands, and there also tsunami takes almost 30 minutes to reach from these sources. And if you come to the east coast of India, it takes almost 2 hours. So we had enough time. So the approach which was adopted by Department of Ocean Development was to plant ocean bottom pressure recorders in the immediate vicinity of these tsunami-genic zones. Also, we got such tremendous support from the government to implement this program. There were at that time proposals from others costing us about 1,000 crores. And what we spent, direct cost was just 120 crore in setting up this system. And as Shailesh said, that 2000 is one of the main persons who worked on it and made it possible to happen. What happened? Okay, so this just tells the ocean bottom pressure recorders on the Sumatra to Andaman Nicobar. What is? Okay, I think I have got. Okay, it's all right. I'll miss that. So I'm not going to go in detail, but this is one of the earlier things which was done at that time, and that is to, you see, there is no time to compute after the earthquake has occurred. So you have to have all the computations preserved in your memory, and depending upon where the earthquake occurs and what is the magnitude, you immediately put it all together to forecast that how much time it will take, what will the amplitude of these waves, etc., etc., etc. So this was a very meticulously done exercise take up by INCOIS in computing the tsunamis for sources starting from 7 magnitude earthquake, 50 kilometer distance, and then you add 10 of them, 20 of them, etc., etc. So all these computations were ready so that as soon as an earthquake occurs, and you get to know from the ocean bottom pressure recorders that tsunami is being generated within half an hour, 20 minutes time, you have the total scene available. So this is the story of setting up of the Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System. It was ready in 30 months' time, and in 2007 we had an earthquake which appeared to create tsunami, and it was forecasted and it came through, and then that's how it started. So, and from now I'll come towards the end about it. Now let me go to the 11th March 2011 magnitude 9 earthquake in Japan. Japan is one of the foremost country in tsunamis and everything. Everything started from there. The only problem was that Fukushima nuclear power plant was constructed during 1960s. At that time, the potential of the plate boundary there was estimated to be a magnitude 8 earthquake. Plate tectonics came much later in 70s, and after that there was no earthquake. So also what happens that when a large earthquake occurs, there is a source time function of it. Say for the Japan earthquake, it was about 100 seconds as against 500 seconds for the Indian Ocean earthquake. So initially within the first 10-20 seconds, you see the amplitude of those waves. So the original forecast for this earthquake was magnitude 7, so it kept on increasing. And they had already built a tsunami wall. So when people heard about it, that a tsunami is coming, they rushed to the wall to see that, without realizing that the magnitude grew to magnitude 9, and they were all swept over. So tsunami was up to 40 meters height in Sendai. Honshu moved 2.4 meters east. Earth's axis shifted by 10 to 25 centimeters. Peak acceleration was up to 3G for this earthquake. And there's a Chandra wobble, because if you hit a huge bell, then it starts busting. Something like that happened. And it caused nuclear accidents, meltdown in Fukushima plant. And residents within the 20 kilometer of Fukushima had to be evacuated. So the deaths were about 16,000, and 12,000, many buildings got damaged. And the Japanese Prime Minister at that time said that in the 65 years after the end of World War II, this is the toughest and most difficult crisis for Japan. About 4.5 million households were without electricity, etc., etc. And this is the source time function of the Tohoku earthquake. And as you can see that it was a very efficient earthquake, because all the energy was released in 100 seconds. As compared to that, if you look at the Sumatra earthquake, which is very sluggish, 500 seconds, 1500 kilometers of the rupture. So that was the situation. So at that time, I was president of Asia Oceania Geoscience Society, and I wrote a letter on 13th March at 5:43 a.m. that we at AOGS are indeed very sorry to learn about the devastation by the 11th March 8. That time magnitude was 8.9. Earthquake and the resultant tsunami that has caused widespread damage and loss of human lives in Sendai, nearby region Japan. Japan is the most advanced country in the world as far as the earthquake research is concerned. We are conscious that tragedy would have been several-fold more severe, but for the scientific and technology interventions and implementations of defensive mechanisms by Japanese scientists, engineers, and administration. We hope that you are and your families are safe, and we wish you a quick recovery. We have about 200 members from Japan in AOGS, so this letter was sent to all those 200 members. And immediately, same day, after 2 hours, I got a reply from one Minoru Kusukabe. Dear Dr. Harsh Gupta, President AOGS, thank you for your note, your kind words. It was indeed a big disaster, the biggest we ever experienced. I hope people of the devastated region revive in the near future, but the disaster looks so serious. Personally, I'm okay, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Taipei, because our next meeting was in Taipei, and I was supposed to go there. So almost everyone replied. One reply came almost after 7-8 days. And that's why I'm sharing it with you. Dear Dr. Harshupta, thank you for a kind message. Unfortunately, many people were gone, and a few members of my colleagues' family were included in them. A half of my city, Tigajo, next to Sendai, was swept away by tsunami, and many friends had lost their houses. The tsunami came to within 500 meters of my house, but my house is built on a small hill, and my family are fortunately all safe. Today I got the internet connection and writing this email to you. Apologize about my late response and appreciate of your kindness. I spent 10 days without internet, alcohol and coffee. Every day my family went for refuge to clean up the refuge. Every day my family have hot supper together. Every day my family sleep at 10 p.m., 8 p.m. and get up at 5 a.m. together. The earthquake and tsunami were sad disaster, but my family are experiencing invaluable time. So this is the spirit that how do you take a disaster and look at the positive side of it. And they made a plan that what they should do, and which is evacuation facilities, concrete wall, tsunami control forecast, coastal, etc., etc. So very systematically they are doing it. My last two slides are about the new development on space mission, and GNSS is very strongly being used in estimating the rupture, the variations during the propagation of sea level, and finally, SAR imagery are very useful quantifying damage following tsunami floods. So all this is under purview, and in 2021, IOC UNESCO approved the Ocean Decade Tsunami Program, and I'm very proud to say that there's a 10-member committee, and Srinivas Kumar is chairing that committee. So nothing could be more wonderful for us to see that the effort which India started in 2004, continuous work by Radhakrishna, Shailesh, Shinoy, everyone has fructified, and starting from scratch, we are on the top of the world. I would like to conclude my talk by saying that India completed ingeniously a very ambitious project, set up a state-of-art tsunami warning capacity for the Indian Ocean warning in short time of 30 months. This was achieved by end of August 2007 and tested by the 12th September 2000 earthquake. Over the past 15 years, the system has worked very efficiently. It is now assessed among the best in the world. With the outstanding contribution over the year, INCOIS is identified as one of the key tsunami service providers for the Indian tsunami warning and mitigation, IOTWMS. The credit goes to MOES, particularly INCOIS, for this extraordinary achievement. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I've taken a little longer. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so Thank you so much, sir, for that very enlightening talk.